A high-powered CEO escapes to the beach for a quiet vacation, only to stumble upon a lost little girl in the sand. But when her mother appears, calling his name with a voice full of shock, his entire world tilts on its axis. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Robert Sutton was used to orchestrating million-dollar deals from the heights of his glass-walled office. He was known among colleagues as a decisive CEO, always immaculately dressed, always in control, and perpetually glued to his phone. But none of his perfectly penned contracts or cunning market maneuvers could have prepared him for what would happen during his vacation in the Bahamas. It all started on a brilliant afternoon, the golden sun bathing the white sands in a fiery glow. Robert had come to the island seeking an escape from stress, perhaps hoping that the turquoise ocean and the hush of palm fronds would smooth out the knots in his mind. For once, he left his suit in the closet and wore a loose linen shirt and sandals. No laptops, no board meetings, no pushy CFOs or insistent investors, just the quiet hush of waves. Even so, that restlessness in his chest never really went away. That's why he ended up pacing the shore, trying to distract himself from the impulse to check his email one last time. He had chosen a secluded beach far from the usual tourist hotspots. The ocean breeze smelled like salt and possibility. The coconut trees swayed as if welcoming him, and the gentle sound of water rolling in and out lulled him into a sort of half-trance. Robert found a spot by a smooth boulder and stood there, arms folded, letting the scenic vista wash over him. Then he spotted her. A child, 5 or 6 at most, standing alone near the water's edge, wearing a simple yellow sundress that fluttered in the breeze. She was barefoot, her light brown curls whipped around by the wind. The ocean lapped at her ankles, but she paid no attention, gazing up and down the empty shoreline. She was obviously lost. Robert frowned. This was a remote stretch of coast, not the kind of place a child should be wandering alone. As a rule, he wasn't prone to quick emotional leaps. He was used to analyzing the cost-benefit ratio of every move he made. But the sight of that small figure tugged at something deep in his chest. He glanced around. No parents, no lifeguards, not a soul in sight. He stepped forward cautiously, mindful not to startle her. "Hey there," he said softly. The little girl turned, startled, her big brown eyes locking onto his. For a moment there was silence between them, the hush of the ocean doing all the talking. Then she gave a tremulous smile, her lower lip trembling as though she'd been holding back tears for hours. "Are you lost?" Robert asked, bending down to her level. She nodded. I can't find my mommy." There was something in the tone of her voice, a genuine terror that stabbed at Robert's conscience. He realized with some shock that he had never spoken so closely to a child before. Not in years, at least. He put on what he hoped was a reassuring smile. "It's all right," he said, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "My name is Robert. We'll find your mom, okay?" The little girl swallowed hard, trusting him with that naive faith that children often show when they sense a scrap of kindness. "I'm Lily," she whispered, barely audible over the rolling surf. "Lily?" he repeated. "Nice to meet you. How about we walk up the beach a bit and see if we spot your mother?" She nodded, her little face scrunching up with relief. Robert felt a protective surge rise within him, something he hadn't realized he was capable of feeling. They walked slowly, scanning the horizon. He asked her gentle questions. Had she and her mom come by car or boat? Was she staying at a nearby hotel or with friends? Lily only knew they had arrived in a rental car that morning, but she wasn't sure of the name of their resort. Robert's mind started spinning with the possible ways to handle this. Contact local authorities, comb the beach, or maybe return to the last main road and search from there. With every step, the setting sun inched lower, painting the sky with orange ribbons. He didn't want the darkness to swallow them without any idea where her mother was. "Does your mom have a phone?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Lily nodded but admitted she didn't know her mother's new number. They had changed phones recently, she said, something about finances. "She's upset sometimes," Lily added, and Robert realized this child had seen too many adult problems already. Not far ahead, a small rocky outcrop rose above the beach. Perhaps if they circled around it, they might find other beachgoers or even a lifeguard station. Robert took Lily's hand in his, ignoring the sting in his chest that came from a memory long buried. He used to have simpler dreams once, a stable family, love, maybe children. But business and ambition had always overshadowed every personal notion. Now here he was on a secluded beach playing rescuer to a child he'd just met. As they rounded the outcrop, Lily suddenly froze. "That's Mommy's bag!" she cried, her voice echoing. She let go of Robert's hand and sprinted forward. Sure enough, a worn canvas tote lay forgotten in the sand beside a collapsed beach umbrella, but no one was there. Robert's throat went dry as he looked around. There were footprints, 2 sets, maybe more, stamped into the damp sand, leading toward a cluster of palm trees. Some adult footprints. "Stay behind me," he cautioned Lily. Slowly, he made his way up to the bag and rummaged inside for any clue. Some clothes, a magazine, a battered wallet that looked like it had seen better days. No phone. "Mommy?" Lily called out, her voice cracking with hope. Only the wind responded, rustling the palm fronds overhead. A hush fell, broken only by the ocean's rhythmic pounding. Robert weighed his options, wait, or head inland toward the main road with Lily, hoping to find help. Just then, a shadow fell across them, a figure emerging from behind the nearest palm. Robert tensed, ready to shield Lily if needed. But from the silhouette it seemed to be a woman, her hair in disarray, clothes damp with sweat. She stumbled forward like she was half in a daze. Robert recognized the frantic look of a parent searching for a missing child. Lily squealed, "Mommy!" and darted toward her. The woman sank to her knees, scooping Lily into her arms, tears streaming down her face. In that brief moment, Robert was still just an onlooker, heart pounding with relief that Lily's mother was safe. But then the woman looked up, eyes connecting with his. He felt the world spin under him. He recognized her. "Robert," the woman whispered, shock written in every line of her face. He opened his mouth, but no words came. "Sophia?" he finally managed. The name felt surreal, like he had conjured a ghost from a past life. She was thinner than he remembered, her cheeks drawn, her hair streaked with new lines of stress and perhaps heartbreak. But he'd know that face anywhere. It was the face he used to dream about in his college dorm, the face he once swore he'd never forget. "Why are you here?" she said, her voice trembling. Lily nestled in her arms. Robert took a step forward, the weight of years pressing on his chest. "I was on vacation. I found Lily alone. We were looking for you." Sophia let out a shaky breath. We were going to the public beach, but Lily ran off when I turned around for 1 second. She pressed Lily closer, relief washing over her. Then she looked at Robert with disbelief. "I never imagined I'd see you again." He nodded mutely, swallowed by memories of a love they once shared, of a relationship broken by choices he'd made. The sudden flood of regret, curiosity, and an unspoken sorrow washed over him. This was no casual encounter. He could feel the undercurrent of fate pulling them together on this deserted shore. For a moment, none of them spoke, the hush of the sea filling the silence. The only thing Robert could think of was how fragile Sophia looked, how life seemed to have battered her. This woman in front of him, once so full of bright laughter and unstoppable dreams, now had hollow circles under her eyes. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but Lily's presence reminded him to tread gently. Sophia wiped her tears and slowly stood, Lily clutching her arm. "Thank you," she said, her voice still trembling. "If something had happened to Lily, I don't know. "It's okay," Robert replied, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. "Let's get both of you somewhere safe." Before Sophia could answer, Lily tugged Robert's sleeve. "Are you Mommy's friend?" she asked innocently. He hesitated, a rush of complicated feelings swirling inside him. "We used to know each other," he managed softly. Sophia cast her gaze downward. There was more to say, but neither of them dared to speak it then. The sun was almost gone, the sky now smudged with purple and pink. Eventually, they'd have to talk about the past, about the heartbreak. But at that moment, the immediate concern was to find shelter and figure out how Sophia and Lily had ended up in such a precarious situation. Robert glanced at the battered wallet from the tote bag, the near-empty car of Lily's mother, and the exhaustion etched on Sophia's face. A gnawing suspicion rose in him. Sophia was here not for leisure, but because she was running from something or someone, or maybe just from life's relentless hardships. He carefully placed a hand on Lily's head, then looked at Sophia. "There's a small resort not too far from here," he said. "Let me help you. It's the least I can do." Sophia met his gaze, tears threatening again, and nodded. The swirl of emotions between them remained thick, unspoken. They began to walk along the darkening shore, Lily in tow, none of them fully realizing how drastically this unexpected meeting would change all their lives. Hours later, Robert found himself in the modest lobby of a small resort on the far side of the island. The place wasn't luxurious by any stretch. Threadbare rattan chairs in the waiting area, a reception desk that had seen better days, and ceiling fans doing lazy circles overhead. Yet it offered some refuge from the night that had long since fallen over the beach. After making sure Sophia and Lily were settled on a faded sofa near the front window, Robert approached the reception desk. "2 rooms, please," he requested softly. His eyes flicked over to where Lily lay, curled up, head resting on Sophia's lap. The girl had clearly exhausted herself with a mix of sun, tears, and the roller coaster of getting lost. The receptionist, a stout woman with a kind face, typed something on an ancient computer. "We've got plenty of rooms available," she said. "How many nights?" Robert hesitated, glancing at Sophia. She offered a faint, uncertain shrug, as if unsure what tomorrow would bring. He turned back to the receptionist. "Let's book 2 nights for now." He accepted the rusted room keys with a polite nod. The woman gave him a sympathetic smile, perhaps sensing the tensions and fatigue swirling around them. "Let me know if you need anything else," she offered, then retreated to a back room. Robert exhaled slowly, returning to Sophia and Lily. Lily was half asleep, her eyelids fluttering. Sophia ran a hand gently over her daughter's curls. In the soft overhead light, he could see the traces of worry etched on Sophia's face. She looked older than she should, signs of too many burdens for someone who once had bright plans for a grand future. Robert knelt beside her. "Room 206, he said, offering one of the keys. "Let me carry her up." Sophia nodded, letting him scoop Lily into his arms. The little girl stirred, but didn't protest, slipping deeper into a contented slumber. A flicker of emotion passed across Sophia's face, perhaps a twinge of nostalgia or surprise at how gentle Robert could be, given all the unkind ways their story had ended so long ago. They headed upstairs in silence. The walls of the corridor were painted in peeling pastel colors, and flickering light bulbs cast elongated shadows. The room itself was spare but clean. 2 beds, a rickety dresser, and an ocean breeze whispering through a gap in the balcony door. Robert laid Lily down carefully on one of the beds. For a long moment, neither he nor Sophia spoke. He stood there scanning the child's sleeping form as an unfamiliar ache took hold of him, like a powerful longing for something lost, or something that never was. Sophia stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I appreciate this," she said, tugging on the bottom hem of her shirt nervously. "I didn't have the means, or the money, to stay anywhere decent. We were—" She broke off, swallowing back a wave of vulnerability. Robert looked at her with unguarded concern. "Don't worry about it. You two can stay as long as you need to." He caught the tremor in her voice, the sadness that hovered just behind her eyes. "Sophia." He paused, torn between the desire to flood her with questions and the need to tread gently, aware this wasn't the time to rehash old battles. "We'll talk later. Get some rest." She managed a nod, grateful yet hesitant. "You should sleep too. You look different from how I remember." Her words carried an unspoken complexity, not just his outward appearance, broader shoulders, more refined features, but something deeper, a shifted aura. Time and success had hardened Robert in ways perhaps she was only now sensing. He forced a small smile. "I'm in room 205 right next door. If you need anything, just knock." Sophia turned to glance at Lily. The child, despite the day's turmoil, slept soundly, her little hand clutching a corner of the blanket. "Thank you again," Sophia murmured, and he could see the genuine gratitude flickering behind the tears she refused to shed. He left quietly, pulling the door shut behind him, stepping into a corridor that smelled of stale beach air and cleaning fluid. In the solitude of his own room, Robert tossed his wallet and phone onto the nightstand. The jarring ring of his phone made him flinch. Instinctively, he reached to power it off, but then realized it might be something urgent from his office. Old habits died hard. He picked it up and saw an incoming call from his CFO, probably some crisis about numbers or a sudden drop in the market that demanded his immediate attention. For a second, he considered ignoring it. But responsibility gnawed at him, that unrelenting sense of duty that had fueled his climb to the top. "Yes?" he answered flatly. "Robert, sorry to bother you," came the rushed voice on the other end. "We've got an issue with the pending merger. The other firm is threatening to walk unless we concede on a couple of points." A muscle in Robert's jaw tightened. This was precisely the kind of conversation he had flown across an ocean to avoid. "Email me the details," he said. "I'll look at them in the morning." "But they say they need an answer by—" "In the morning," Robert repeated, a sharper edge in his tone. He ended the call, pressing his phone into his palm as though trying to crush the stress. His heart pounded. Annoyance mingled with relief. He had grown so used to devoting every minute of his life to work that the notion of ignoring it felt almost traitorous. But tonight, he felt a pressing need to sit and process the swirl of emotions that threatened to overtake him. Staring at the ceiling fan as it thumped overhead, Robert let his mind wander back to that day so many years ago when he had said goodbye to Sophia. They had been just two young college dreamers, passionately in love, but he had chosen career over love. Or maybe more accurately, he'd let his career ambitions overshadow all else. The memory stabbed him with guilt. His thoughts circled back to Lily, her trusting eyes, the tiny hand that had clutched his so readily. He couldn't stop wondering, could Lily be his daughter? The timelines, the subtle resemblances, or was he just letting his guilt conjure illusions? He knew better than to make assumptions, but the idea wouldn't let him rest. The next morning, the island sun came early, golden rays streaming through the gap in the curtains. Robert awoke feeling only slightly rested. He splashed water on his face, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. It was the face of a man used to control, to having all the answers. Right now, he had none. He stepped into the hallway, hearing quiet murmurs from Sophia's room. The door was cracked open, and inside he spotted Lily perched on the bed, wide awake, animatedly flipping through a weathered picture book. Sophia knelt on the floor by a small suitcase, rummaging through clothes. Seeing Robert, Lily waved happily. "Hi," she said as though they were old friends. A flicker of warmth lit inside Robert, an affection that took him by surprise. "Morning," he replied, stepping across the threshold. Sophia turned, the shadows under her eyes still there but softened by dawn light. "Did you sleep?" she asked. More or less, he said gently. You too? Lily answered first, hugging her book. I had a dream. I was a mermaid in the ocean. A small giggle escaped her, the innocent joy of a child who recovers quickly, unaware of adult troubles. Sophia combed her fingers through Lily's curls. We slept fine, she said, her gaze drifting from Lily to Robert. There was a question in that gaze. When do we face the truth? Talk about all that's unspoken. As if on cue, Robert cleared his throat. How about we get breakfast downstairs and catch up a bit? Sophia nodded, pressing her lips together in a way that hinted she was steeling herself. That would be good, she said. I need to figure out, well, everything. A self-deprecating laugh escaped her. I was supposed to meet a contact here who promised me part-time work, but it didn't pan out. The money I saved for the trip just vanished on other costs. A pang shot through Robert. Did you come all this way for a job you weren't even sure about? Sophia looked away, shame flickering across her expression. It was my last chance. I got behind on rent back home. I thought maybe a job at a small cafe on the island, a chance to breathe, start fresh. Turned out it was a scam. Robert let the weight of her words sink in, that she had risked everything, with a young daughter in tow, chasing a hope that turned out to be empty. I'm sorry, he said softly, not sure what else he could say. Sophia gave a grim nod, carefully folding Lily's dress into the suitcase. Well, sorry or not, that's the situation. Lily and we have nowhere to go right now. Her voice nearly cracked. I don't even have enough for a plane ticket back. Then stay, Robert said, the words coming out more forcefully than he intended. He inhaled, steadying his tone. I mean, you can stay here until you figure out your next move. Her eyes flicked to his. I'm not a charity case, Robert. I'm not saying that, he insisted quietly, but you could use some help. I can't turn my back on you or Lily, not after everything. Sophia froze. Caught in the gravity of his gaze, he could see the swirl of pride and desperation in her eyes, how torn she was about accepting any gesture from him. But Lily, oblivious to the adult tension, hopped off the bed, took Sophia's hand in one of hers and Robert's in the other. Let's get pancakes, Lily declared, like a tiny mediator. Her cheerful grin melted some of the heaviness in the air. Sophia exhaled, shoulders slumping. Okay, she murmured, giving Lily's hand a squeeze. Then she met Robert's eyes. We'll talk more after breakfast. He nodded, noticing how the morning light softened her features, reminding him of the younger, fearless woman he had once known. The years had changed them both, twisting paths that were never supposed to overlap again, and yet here they were, forced by circumstance into a situation neither had scripted. As Lily skipped into the hallway, Robert and Sophia followed. There, beyond the narrow windows and peeling paint, the island's radiant sunshine awaited. It glowed over palm fronds and the vast turquoise sea. For a moment they all soaked in the hopeful brightness, as if the new day might offer second chances. Robert had never been one for leisurely breakfasts, typically gulping down black coffee and racing out the door to conquer the business world. But today, in the resort's modest dining area, the aroma of pancakes and the soft chatter of guests made everything feel strangely serene. The windows were open to the ocean breeze, wicker chairs creaked as people shifted around, and ceiling fans traced slow circles overhead. He, Sophia, and Lily slipped into a corner table. Lily immediately reached for the small menu, humming to herself as she scanned it. The waitress, a friendly local woman with warm brown eyes, approached with a notepad in hand. "What can I get you folks?" she asked, beaming at Lily in particular. "Pancakes," Lily piped up, hugging the menu to her chest. "With extra syrup," the waitress chuckled. "Pancakes it is. And for you two?" Robert glanced at Sophia, who shrugged with a small smile. "Coffee," she said quietly, "and maybe some fruit. That'll be enough." Robert hesitated. He could almost feel the pinch of pride behind Sophia's light order. She might have been trying not to impose, or maybe she worried about the cost even though he had said he'd pay. He ordered scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee for himself, then turned back to Sophia after the waitress left. "You can get whatever you want," he murmured, aware Lily was listening. "Don't hold back." Sophia stiffened slightly but then relented with a nod. "It's fine," she said, her tone gentle. "I'm not that hungry." An awkward silence followed. Lily swung her legs under the table, oblivious to the tension. She started recounting a dream from the night before, one involving a mermaid kingdom and magical seashells. Her bright chatter filled the space, momentarily soothing the unspoken weight between Robert and Sophia. When the food arrived, Lily dug in happily, and Robert watched Sophia pick at the fruit on her plate. He wasn't sure how to approach the conversation he knew they needed to have. Yes, they had parted ways in college under a cloud of heartbreak, but that was years ago. Now there was Lily in the mix, a sweet child who might just be... The thought made him swallow hard. "So," he ventured, "how have you been these last few years?" Sophia set down her fork, eyes drifting to Lily before returning to him. "Not exactly what I pictured," she said with a wry twist of her lips. "I moved back to my hometown for a bit. Tried to finish my degree, but finances..." She trailed off, picking at a strawberry. "And then Lily came along." Robert's heart pounded. He tried to keep his voice level. "Her father..." Sophia tensed, pressing her lips together. "He's not around," she said quietly. "Never has been." That answer hung in the air, loaded with subtext. Robert's gaze flicked to Lily, who was now creating a smiley face on her pancake with syrup. Could it truly be? He fought to keep his composure. "Sophia," he said, lowering his voice so Lily wouldn't overhear. "How old is Lily exactly?" Sophia's eyes flickered with apprehension. "6," she whispered. A tidal wave of conflicting emotion hit Robert. It had been about 7 years since he and Sophia had ended things, but the timeline, the possibility, it all felt dizzying. He searched her expression, but she turned away, focusing on Lily. They finished breakfast in halting conversation, Lily doing most of the talking. She spoke about funny cartoons, her favorite stuffed animal back home, and how she wished she could swim with dolphins. Robert nodded and smiled at all the right moments, but inside, his thoughts churned with speculation and heartache. After the waitress cleared their plates, Lily hopped up. "Can I go look at the shells outside?" she pleaded, pointing to a small garden area beside the dining room where a few seashells lined the walkway. Sophia glanced at Robert, who nodded. "Stay where I can see you," Sophia told Lily. The child agreed, bounding off happily, and then they were alone. A hush settled over the table, the soft drone of other guests' chatter forming a distant backdrop. Robert leaned forward. "I need to know," he began, his voice subdued but resolute. "We were together for a long time in college. He paused, inhaling carefully. "Is Lily mine?" Sophia swallowed hard. Her knuckles whitened around the edge of the table. "Robert," she said, voice unsteady, "so much time has passed. You chose to leave when those big job offers came in. You had your plans, and I couldn't follow you then." "I know," he said, guilt gnawing at him. "But that doesn't answer my question." She pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. He could see the storm of emotions roiling behind her eyes, hurt, fear, protective instinct for Lily. "Look," she whispered, "I got pregnant a couple of months after we stopped speaking. It was complicated. I tried to reach you once, but your phone number changed, and you never looked back." Robert's pulse thundered in his ears. He remembered discarding that old phone number when he'd switched to a new city, new job. He'd told himself it was part of moving on, and apparently that move had burned a vital bridge. "Are you saying you tried to tell me?" he asked, voice ragged. Her eyes glimmered with tears she fought to contain. I left messages with your old roommate. I wrote letters. I never heard back. And after a while I convinced myself you'd moved on. So I accepted I'd have to do it alone. Robert felt like the world had slammed into him. He pictured old mailboxes stuffed with unopened letters, calls he never got. His eyes stung, but he held her gaze. So Lily is... Sophia nodded, tears now threatening to fall. Yes, she's your daughter. He closed his eyes for a second as though trying to absorb the blow. The truth of it sank in, weaving through his thoughts like wildfire. Regret for the lost years, heartbreak that Lily had grown up without him, and a fierce pang of protective love for a child he hardly knew, all melded into a single wave of emotion. Sophia, he began, but she cut him off, voice tight. I never expected you to swoop in after all this time, she said, fighting to steady herself. But here we are. Lily found you by accident. I don't even know what to say or do. Robert nodded, pressing trembling fingers to his temples. He had steeled himself against corporate takeovers, abrupt market slumps, crises that would make other CEOs sweat. But this was a raw, personal quake. I'm not swooping in, he said finally, quieter now. I just wish I'd known. I wish things had been different. She exhaled, blinking away tears. Me too, she admitted softly. They lapsed into silence, each grappling with the weight of the years gone by. Outside the window, Lily crouched by the garden bed, carefully arranging shells in a pattern, humming a tune that carried faintly through the open door. Robert found himself transfixed by the shape of her face, her small nose, the curve of her cheeks. Was it his imagination, or did she share a slight resemblance to the family he'd grown up with? Robert, Sophia ventured, I'm not looking for a handout or pity. Lily and we've managed, despite everything. But I can't deny the fact that we're in a tough place now. I'm humiliated that we got scammed coming here. I have no steady work. Lily deserves stability. He studied her, noting the pride and sorrow in her voice. If I can help, I want to, he said firmly. Not just financially, I want to be a father to her. Sophia's mouth fell open slightly. A father? She echoed, as if the concept were startling. I mean, she knows nothing about you. I never wanted to fill her head with resentment or confusion. I told her dad was gone, that we weren't together. Robert felt a twist in his chest. The thought that Lily believed her father just didn't exist pained him. Let's take it slow, he suggested. She trusts me already, at least a little, or she wouldn't have let me help her on the beach. We can start there. Sophia chewed her lip. I guess I need time to explain things to her too. But how can we handle this? You live so far away, and your life is... She gestured at him, his expensive watch, his aura of success. It's not the same as ours. He leaned back in the chair, lost in a swirl of thoughts. I'm on vacation for another week, he said quietly. Let's use that time to figure something out. I'll be here every day, not traveling. Maybe that's a start. She nodded warily, glimpsing Lily as the child wandered back inside, carrying a handful of shells. Robert straightened, forcing a smile as Lily skipped over. The little girl gently laid 2 large conch shells on the table. One for each of you, Lily declared proudly. A memory of the Bahamas. Robert picked up the spiral shell, turning it in his hands. It's beautiful, he said sincerely. He glanced at Sophia, noticing the emotion shimmering in her eyes. Thank you, sweetie, Sophia murmured, placing her shell beside her coffee cup. Lily hopped onto a chair, oblivious to the undercurrent between the 2 adults. Mommy, can we go to the beach again today? She asked, wriggling with excitement. Sophia and Robert exchanged a look. Yes, Sophia said after a pause. But let's stay somewhere safer this time, all right? Lily nodded eagerly. And maybe Mr. Robert can show me how to swim better, she blurted, beaming at him. He's so tall, he can hold me up in the water. Robert felt an unexpected warmth bloom in his chest, equal parts surprise and affection. "I'd love to," he told Lily softly. Sophia watched them, her expression torn between relief and the deep ache of unresolved questions. She didn't protest Lily's eagerness, nor did she discourage Robert's involvement. But beneath her wary acceptance was a fragile hope, a hope that maybe this accident of fate on a deserted beach could heal some of the wounds from all those lost years. They stood and walked out of the dining area, Lily happily chattering about mermaids again. Robert and Sophia followed, stepping back into the bright island sun, carrying secrets and possibilities that would shape the next days, and more importantly, the rest of their lives. Later that morning, Robert arranged for a taxi to take them to a more popular, family-friendly beach on the island. The resort staff had recommended a stretch of shoreline known for its gentle waves and reliable lifeguard patrols. As they all piled into the back seat, Lily in the middle, eyes shining with excitement, Robert felt a low buzz of nerves and anticipation. He kept catching himself glancing at Sophia in the taxi's dusty side mirror, recalling their old warmth and the heartbreak that had come after. Lily chatted non-stop. She insisted on telling the taxi driver all about her plan to build a sandcastle twice as big as me, while occasionally peppering Robert with questions. "Did you always like the ocean? Have you ever found a pearl? Do you know how to make seashell necklaces?" Sophia watched the exchange, her expression shifting between wariness and a gentle affection. It was clear that Lily's curiosity about Robert was building. The car pulled up at a scenic cove lined with chairs and umbrellas. Hotel vans and other taxis were dropping off tourists, so the place had a bustling energy absent from the quiet stretch of coast where Robert had found Lily. He paid the fare and stepped out into bright sunlight, the tang of salt in the air. Several beach vendors drifted about, selling fresh coconut water, straw hats, and ice-cold drinks. As soon as Lily's feet hit the sand, she squealed in delight. "Mommy, look, it's so much bigger than I thought." She grabbed Sophia's hand, tugging her closer to the shoreline. Robert hung back for a moment, taking in the sight. Mother and child silhouetted against the turquoise ocean, wading in up to their ankles. A warm breeze rolled in, gently pushing him forward, as if urging him to join them. He dropped his sandals near the rental chairs, peeled off his shirt, and strode into the surf. Lily splashed around gleefully, shrieking whenever a small wave teased her knees. Sophia stood protectively next to her, the water lapping at her thighs. She wore a simple navy blue swimsuit. Nothing fancy, but Robert couldn't help noticing how it revealed just how slender she'd become, almost as if life's hardships had carved away any softness. Lily spotted him. "Mr. Robert, come on," she called, beckoning with both arms. He felt another jolt of that tender ache in his chest, unsure how to handle the name Mr. Robert, knowing he was more than just a friendly stranger but hardly prepared to announce the truth. He nonetheless waded over, letting the sun soak his shoulders. "Can you swim well, Lily?" he asked, kneeling in the gently rolling waves so he could see her face. She giggled. "A little bit. Mommy holds me sometimes." Robert opened his arms tentatively. "Would you like me to hold you while you try to float?" Lily nodded, eyes dancing. Sophia hovered nearby, tension flickering across her features, but she made no move to stop him, so Robert scooped Lily up, carefully sliding one hand under her back and the other beneath her knees. She was so light, so trusting. Sophia watched, chest tight. "Be careful," she said quietly. Robert nodded, gently guiding Lily so she could lean back. "Relax," he murmured to the little girl. "The water will help carry you." A squeal of excitement escaped Lily's lips as she floated for a heartbeat. Then a tiny wave pushed against her, and she clung to Robert's arms with wide eyes. "It tickles," she announced, bursting into a grin. Sophia couldn't help but laugh, a brief, bright sound that reminded Robert of the carefree girl she used to be. They spent nearly an hour in the shallows with Robert showing Lily how to kick her legs and hold her breath under small waves. Every time Lily popped back up, she'd look for her mother's approval, then beam at Robert. Slowly, a fragile camaraderie formed in those lapping waters. Eventually, they took a break, retreating to an umbrella shade. Robert bought cold drinks from a vendor, a frosty lemonade for Lily, coconut water for Sophia, and a plain bottle of water for himself. The three of them sprawled on loungers, catching their breath. Lily's cheeks glowed pink from the sun, droplets of seawater still clinging to her lashes. "Thank you," Sophia said softly to Robert, taking a sip of her coconut water. "She's never been this excited in the ocean. I'm not the strongest swimmer." He brushed it off with a gentle shrug. "She's brave for her age. Seems like she wants to try everything." He snuck a glance at Lily, who was chattering about seashells again to a couple of curious tourists nearby. Sophia lowered her eyes, voice subdued. "She has her father's spirit, I guess." The words landed with a quiet weight. He had known it for less than a day, but something about hearing her acknowledge it out loud made it real in a completely different way. This was his child, this bright spark of a girl who was discovering the world in leaps and bounds. Robert wanted to reach for Sophia's hand, to reassure her, to say something that could encapsulate his regret and determination to do better. But a swirl of complicated feelings paralyzed him. He simply murmured, "I want to be there for her." Sophia nodded. "I see that." She hesitated, scanning the beach as if to ensure Lily was safely in view. "I'm scared, Robert," she admitted. "Scared that you'll get involved and then disappear again. She loves quickly, you know?" His throat tightened. "I don't want to vanish, but I'll need your help figuring out how to be a father. And there's the question of what happens when we leave this island." Sophia set down her coconut water. "Let's focus on each day for now," she suggested. "If we overthink it, we'll get lost in the what-ifs." There was a trembling note to her voice, as if she too was trying to keep from drowning in the intensity of this situation. Robert nodded, a silent pact forming between them to navigate step by step. Lily trotted back, proudly holding up 3 small shells. "Look, they match!" she exclaimed, pressing them into Robert's hand. "You can keep one, Mommy keeps one, and I keep one, so we'll always have the same shells." "That's beautiful, sweetie," Sophia said, stroking Lily's damp curls. Robert swallowed a lump in his throat, marveling at Lily's innocent generosity. He forced a smile, praising her find. They spent the next half-hour building a small sand castle near the shore, Lily bossily instructing Robert on turret placement. Sophia watched, occasionally offering suggestions, but mostly letting them bond. The midday sun grew intense, so they relocated under the umbrella. Robert noticed his phone buzzing in the beach bag, though it was muffled by towels. A pang of old guilt and tension pricked at him. He had come here to escape that perpetual tether to business, but real life waited back home. At that moment, though, Lily was tugging on his arm, wanting him to join her in admiring the sandcastle from different angles. He decided the call could wait. They had a simple lunch from a nearby shack, fish tacos, fries, and fruit juice. Lily devoured her meal and asked Robert a dozen random questions. "Do you live in a big house? Do you like roller coasters? What's your favorite color?" He answered as best he could, shooting occasional glances at Sophia for help whenever Lily pressed into topics like, "Where exactly do you live?" or "Why haven't we met before?" Sophia distracted Lily with the promise of ice cream if she finished her fries, and Robert felt a quiet gratitude that she was giving him room to address these questions in smaller doses. The big talk would come later. When they finally packed up to leave, Lily clutched Robert's hand the entire way to the taxi stand, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Sophia watched them, face unreadable. Back at the small resort, Lily, sand still stuck to her ankles, practically skipped to their room. Sophia and Robert trailed behind. The day had been filled with sunshine, laughter, and the subtle undercurrent of unresolved tension. An invisible clock ticked in Robert's mind, knowing soon he'd have to face the business crisis that had been brewing back home. He couldn't stay in paradise forever. As evening approached, they reconvened downstairs in the lobby considering dinner plans. A distant hush of waves outside beckoned, and the pink and orange sky signaled the end of a near-perfect day for Lily. Robert's phone, still lodged in the beach bag, was silent for now, but he suspected the voicemails would be piling up. "I can cook," Sophia offered quietly. "We have a small kitchenette in the suite." She looked a bit shy. "Might be cheaper than eating out again." Robert perked up. "That sounds nice," he replied, trying not to overstep by offering money or groceries. Instead, he said, "Maybe I can grab some ingredients. The front desk might tell us where the nearest market is." Sophia looked momentarily relieved. "Okay, Lily loves spaghetti if that's easy." They parted ways in the lobby. Sophia and Lily headed to the elevator while Robert walked toward the reception desk to inquire about local supermarkets. Watching them go, he felt a swirl of conflicting emotions again. This was so domestic, so mundane, planning dinner as a family. Yet their situation was anything but ordinary. He learned of a small market a few blocks away, so he stepped outside, strolling past a row of palm trees that rustled in the island breeze. The late afternoon light cast long shadows on the pavement. Already he was mentally running through a grocery list. Pasta, sauce, maybe bread and fruit. It felt bizarrely comforting to do something so normal after the revelations of the past day. Outside the market, local music spilled from a nearby cafe, and the humid air smelled of grilled fish and tropical blooms. A sudden thought hit him. He'd never done this before. Shop for a meal with the intention of cooking for a child, for a woman he once loved. He paused, letting the notion settle, then pushed open the market's creaky door. Within half an hour, he emerged with a bag full of groceries, heavier than planned. He grabbed a taxi back, feeling a strange mixture of anxiety and excitement about returning to the resort, to Sophia's makeshift kitchen, to Lily's bright chatter. For perhaps the first time, Robert realized he was more anxious about messing up the spaghetti sauce than about missing a call from his CFO. It was a jarring realization of how drastically his priorities had shifted in a matter of days. Re-entering the room, he found Sophia in the tiny kitchenette, rummaging for pots and pans. Lily was sprawled on the bed, flipping through the TV channels. At the sight of Robert, she perked up. "Did you get the noodles?" she asked, bouncing off the bed. Robert grinned. "Yep, ready to cook." Sophia took the grocery bag, a look of mild surprise at how much he'd bought. "This is enough for a feast," she murmured, glancing at him with a tentative smile. Robert set the extra fruit down on the counter. "If it's too much, we can keep it for tomorrow," he said. I wasn't sure how hungry everyone might be. Lily began to rummage through the bag. "Ooh, bananas and cereal." She fished out a small box that Robert had included, thinking Lily might like something sweet in the mornings. Sophia flashed another brief, grateful expression. Then she handed Robert a cutting board and some tomatoes. "If you want to help, start slicing." He nodded, rolling up his sleeves. This, he thought, was a world away from corporate conference calls and executive dinners. In a small, slightly worn kitchenette with a child's laughter in the background and the woman he once adored by his side, he felt almost at peace. And yet, an undercurrent of unease remained. He knew that beyond this temporary bubble, reality would come crashing back eventually, demanding decisions about the future. But for now, he chased away those worries, focusing on the hum of the stovetop fan and the soft sizzle of garlic hitting oil. Sophia stirred the sauce. Lily hopped around them, and Robert found himself smiling more than he had in years. Perhaps redemption or a second chance could begin in moments like this, through small acts of care, through the tentative bridging of old wounds. They sat down to eat around the room's tiny table, plates of pasta steaming before them. Lily slurped her spaghetti with delight, praising both chefs extravagantly. Sophia's eyes lingered on Robert's face. In her gaze, he saw gratitude, fear, and a spark of something that might have been renewed warmth. Tomorrow, more questions would arise, more truths to confront. For tonight, they shared a quiet meal in a lamp-lit room, a semblance of unity blossoming among the three. Robert vowed inwardly to protect it, to nurture it, no matter what storms lay ahead. He stole a glance at Lily's bright smile, then at Sophia's tentative one, and knew there was no going back to who he used to be. Robert woke at dawn to the faint hum of traffic passing outside the resort, mingling with the distant roar of ocean waves. He'd slept fitfully, tossing and turning in the small, somewhat lumpy bed. Dreams of spreadsheets and board meetings merged with fleeting images of a bright-eyed child calling him Dad. When he finally blinked awake, a familiar knot of anxiety coiled in his stomach. He dragged himself out of bed, pulling on a simple t-shirt and the same linen trousers he'd worn the day before. He tried to ignore the phone on the nightstand, but it pulled at him like a magnet. Reluctantly, he picked it up to check messages. As expected, there were multiple missed calls from his CFO, plus a few texts from other executives. A sinking feeling spread in his chest as he skimmed the content. Urgent. Merger at risk. Need immediate decisions. He felt torn between frustration and guilt, knowing his abrupt departure had left everyone back home scrambling, but also feeling the tug of new, personal responsibilities he'd never anticipated before. He typed out a short reply, "Busy. We'll call you later." Then he tossed the phone back on the pillow, grabbed his keycard, and decided a walk would help clear his head. The corridor was quiet, and as he passed by Sophia and Lily's door, he heard nothing but silence. They were likely still asleep, or at least lying low. The 2 nights they'd spent at the resort had been a whirlwind of revelations and cautious bonding, and he knew they all needed the rest. Outside, the morning air wrapped him in warmth, carrying the tang of the sea. He followed a sandy footpath behind the resort that led toward the shore. Palms arched overhead, their fronds swaying gently. Stopping near a cluster of jagged rocks, he gazed out at the ocean. Shades of pink and orange danced across the horizon, the sun not fully risen yet. He exhaled, letting the tension ease from his shoulders. If he were back home, this time of day would find him reviewing stock reports, fueling up on coffee, and readying himself for another corporate battle. Now he stood in flip-flops and rumpled clothes, thinking about a 6-year-old who might be his daughter. The dissonance was profound. A flock of seabirds took off in unison, skimming the water's surface. Their freedom taunted him somehow. Despite the renewed sense of purpose he felt about Lily, the logistics terrified him. How could he give her the stability she deserved? His life was anchored in another city, another country even, and his job required near-constant travel and 70-hour weeks. That wasn't exactly prime fatherhood material, yet the mere idea of walking away from Lily again twisted his gut. He recalled her face the day before, beaming as they built a sandcastle, her carefree laugh echoing off the water. He couldn't lose that. No matter the complications, he had to find a way to be present. After lingering for a few more minutes, he retraced his steps to the resort. In the small lobby, he noticed an array of brochures for island tours. Boat rides, snorkeling, sunset cruises. Perhaps they could plan something fun. He grabbed one of the glossy pamphlets, tucking it under his arm for later. When he reached the 2nd floor, he found Lily in the hallway, barefoot and clutching a ragged stuffed dolphin. She looked up with an excited grin. "Good morning," she chirped. Robert's heart lifted at the sight of her. "Morning, Lily. You're up early." She nodded vigorously. "Mommy's still sleeping. I wanted to see if you were awake." She moved closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Can we get pancakes again?" A genuine laugh escaped him. "You like pancakes, huh?" Then he remembered how limited Sophia's funds were and how precarious their situation remained. "Sure," he said, smiling. "Let's see if we can find something tasty. But maybe we should wait for your mom to wake up." Lily scrunched her nose playfully. "She said we can go without her if she sleeps in. We can bring her coffee." Robert hesitated. On one hand, he wasn't sure Sophia would appreciate waking up to find them gone. On the other, Lily was pressing her tiny palms together, eyes filled with hope. He found himself powerless to resist. "All right," he relented. "But let's tell the front desk where we're going. Deal?" "Deal," Lily said, raising her stuffed dolphin in triumph. They slipped downstairs, leaving a note with the receptionist. Outside, the early sun painted the streets golden. Lily grabbed his hand, skipping every few steps as though it were the best morning in the world. Robert guided her across the road toward a small cafe he'd noticed earlier, a place with colorful murals on the wall and a sign advertising fresh pastries. The bell above the cafe door jingled as they entered. A sweet smell of dough and coffee wrapped around them. Lily took in the pastries behind the glass display, transfixed. Robert asked for a table for two, and they settled by a window overlooking the quiet street. He ordered pancakes and coffee. Lily ordered chocolate milk, her grin widening when it arrived with a swirl of whipped cream on top. As they waited for the food, she regaled him with more stories. How she loved to paint pictures of animals, how she missed her best friend from back home, a girl named Anna. He listened, engrossed, occasionally asking a question or two. For someone so young, Lily had a wealth of experiences, some quite adult in nature. She mentioned moving apartments, her mother struggling with bills, fleeting references to times they had to skip certain meals. Each casual detail scraped at Robert's conscience, leaving him quietly furious at himself for not having been there. "Mommy did her best," Lily added earnestly at one point, as though guessing his thoughts. "Sometimes we had to make do, but it's okay because we have each other." Robert swallowed the lump in his throat. "Your mom is an incredible person," he agreed. "She loves you very much." Lily nodded, swirling her straw in the chocolate milk. "And now we met you," she said brightly. He hesitated, not sure how to respond. The big question, does Lily fully understand who he is, remained unasked. He recalled the conversation with Sophia. They were taking it slow, but he felt a pang, wishing he could tell Lily the truth right this second. He forced a careful smile. "I'm really glad we met, too." Soon the pancakes arrived, fluffy and drizzled with syrup. Lily practically dove in, savoring every bite. Robert, sipping his coffee, felt an inexplicable pang of contentment, like he was sampling fatherhood in small, sweet bites. After breakfast, they carefully boxed up an extra pastry and a coffee for Sophia, then headed back to the resort. The walk was quieter this time, Lily's energy slightly tempered by her full stomach. She clung to his hand, humming a silly tune. Robert savored the moment, weighed down only by the knowledge that these precious minutes might soon be overshadowed by the avalanche of real-life responsibilities waiting for him. When they reached the door of the room, Sophia answered swiftly, a hint of worry on her face that eased when she saw them together, safe and smiling. "I woke up and didn't see Lily," she said, exhaling in relief. "You left a note, but still—" Lily lifted the pastry box with a flourish. "We brought you breakfast, Mommy." Sophia's shoulders visibly relaxed as she took the box and the coffee cup. "Thank you," she murmured, then gave Robert a faintly reproachful look. "Next time, please wake me first." He met her gaze apologetically. "I'm sorry, I didn't want to disturb you." Her posture softened. "It's okay," she said, setting the breakfast on the little desk. "At least you two had fun." Lily plopped onto the bed, resuming her bright chatter about the cafe. Sophia sipped the coffee, wincing at the heat. Robert hovered near the kitchenette, unsure if he should stay or go. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice measured. "I think Lily needs some rest. She's had a big morning." Lily's face fell slightly. "But I'm not tired," she mumbled, though her eyes looked heavy. Sophia offered a gentle but firm smile. "You can color or watch a cartoon while I talk to Mr. Robert for a moment. Grown-up stuff." Lily didn't resist further, flopping down and grabbing her coloring book. Meanwhile, Robert followed Sophia into the hallway, where the hum of an AC unit and the hush of distant voices provided a thin layer of privacy. Sophia crossed her arms loosely, hugging herself. "I appreciate you taking her out," she said quietly. "She's obviously taken a real liking to you." He sensed a but coming. Sure enough, she continued, "But we need to figure out how to explain this to her, who you are. Every day that passes, she'll have more questions. And if we wait too long, I don't want her to feel betrayed or confused." He nodded. "I've been thinking the same, but I don't want to blindside her either." Sophia's brow furrowed. "Maybe we start by saying that you and I knew each other long ago, that you care about her very much. I'm worried about how she'll process the fact that you weren't around for so long." Her voice faltered. "It's not like I can explain everything that happened. She's only 6. Robert reached out, gently touching Sophia's shoulder. She looked surprised but didn't pull away. "We'll handle it together," he reassured her. "I can't change the past, but I can do my best now." Sophia nodded slowly, eyes drifting to the door of the room. "She's so resilient, but that doesn't mean she's not fragile. I guess we talk in the next day or two. We can keep it simple for now, as you said. Let her adjust to the idea of you being important in her life." A swirl of relief and trepidation churned in Robert's chest. "You sure you're okay with that?" Sophia gave a tired smile. "I am. I see how she looks at you." She swallowed. "I see how you look at her, too. Maybe this is the second chance we never thought we'd get." The words struck him deeply. He squeezed her shoulder before dropping his hand, their eyes meeting in a gentle, vulnerable silence. There was so much to unpack, for them, for Lily, and for the uncertain future beyond these walls. Sophia cleared her throat, stepping back. "Let's do it tonight. Over dinner, maybe. We'll talk to her. Let her ask whatever questions come." Robert nodded. "All right. Tonight." In the heavy pause that followed, both of them felt the magnitude of that plan. It meant acknowledging his role in Lily's life, stepping beyond half-truths. It also meant beginning a healing process that might well reopen old wounds. They returned to the room. Lily looked up, crayons scattered on the comforter, a half-finished rainbow on her paper. She smiled at Robert, a smile so pure it made his heart clench. Tonight, he thought, mentally steeling himself. He would step into his rightful place, no matter how terrifying and complicated. And from there, the real challenge would begin. Forging a bond in the wake of years of absence, proving he could be the father Lily deserved, and discovering whether, somewhere in that process, he and Sophia could salvage something more than just shared responsibility. Late afternoon found them in the resort's modest lounge area. A few wicker sofas arranged around a TV, pastel paintings of seascapes on the walls. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, absorbed in a puzzle the front desk attendant had lent her, while Robert and Sophia hovered in a corner, silently navigating their nerves. The plan was set. They would talk to Lily over dinner, gently explaining that Robert was more than a friendly stranger. Every so often, Robert's eyes flicked to Lily, and his stomach twisted at the idea of how she'd react. In theory, they were all going out for a simple meal at a beachside cafe not far from the resort. But the conversation that would follow dinner was anything but simple. Sophia jotted down a few notes on a scrap of paper, phrases she might use to frame the explanation, then crumpled it, shaking her head. "This isn't a business pitch," she muttered, half to herself, half to Robert. "I can't script it." Robert nodded, his own nerves flaring. "We'll find the words," he said. "Just honesty, I guess, as gentle as we can." Sophia took a deep breath and bent down to Lily's level. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly, brushing her daughter's curls aside. "Want to get some fresh air before dinner? Maybe take a walk on the beach?" Lily brightened, leaving the puzzle pieces scattered. "Sure," she popped up, hugging her stuffed dolphin under one arm. "Can we look for starfish?" "Maybe," Sophia replied with a small laugh. "Not sure if we'll see them, but we can try." Robert escorted them out of the lounge and through the front doors. The sun wasn't quite ready to set yet, casting a warm glow over the palm trees that lined the resort's driveway. The distant ocean breeze drifted through, carrying the scents of salt and distant cooking fires. Lily slipped her hand into Sophia's, and Robert found himself trailing behind them, hands in his pockets, a swirl of emotion building. They reached the sand in minutes. The tide was high, sending waves that stretched further up the shore than usual, leaving a trail of foam with each retreat. Lily kicked off her sandals and ran ahead with excitement, searching the wet sand for any sign of shells or sea creatures. Sophia and Robert walked slowly in her wake, watching the child's silhouette move against the evening sky. "I think about all that time she's grown up without you," Sophia said quietly. "She's a happy kid, but I see the questions in her eyes sometimes. Why don't I have a dad?" Things like that. I didn't want her to feel incomplete. Robert's throat constricted. I'm sorry," he managed. "I know you did your best." Sophia's gaze stayed on Lily. "We'll make it right," she murmured. "But just promise me, no more disappearing acts. Even if you decide you can't be fully involved, at least tell her that yourself. Don't let her wonder." Robert felt a sting of shame. "I won't vanish. Whatever it takes." They caught up to Lily, who was crouched by a small tide pool. She turned, pointing with excitement at a tiny hermit crab scuttling across the sand. "Look, he's changing shells," she exclaimed. "It's like he found a bigger house." Sophia smiled. "Hermit crabs do that when they outgrow their old shells." Robert knelt next to Lily, marveling at how easily children find wonder in the simplest things. The crab, spooked by their presence, quickly disappeared under a rock. Lily giggled, flopping back on the sand. Robert hesitated, then sat beside her, letting the damp grains cushion him. Sophia joined on his other side. They watched the ocean for a while, Lily occasionally drifting closer to the water's edge to let the foam lap at her toes. Sophia and Robert kept a watchful eye, though the sea was calm enough, and Lily was far enough from any real current. The sky shifted from warm orange to soft pink, clouds drifting lazily overhead. Eventually, Lily's tummy growled, a comical rumbling sound that made her giggle. "Time for dinner?" she asked. Sophia smiled, rising to her feet and brushing sand off her shorts. "Yep, that's our cue." They picked a casual beachside eatery with brightly painted chairs and strings of lanterns overhead. The smell of grilled fish and coconut rice wafted from the kitchen. Reggae music hummed softly from speakers mounted near the rafters. Lily hopped onto a chair, glancing around as if this were a grand adventure. Robert settled next to her, with Sophia across the small table. After ordering a simple meal of grilled shrimp, fried plantains, fresh salads, and of course a small plate of fries for Lily, they delved into light conversation. Lily described the hermit crab with animated detail, prompting laughs from both adults. The child's innocence glowed like a beacon, making the impending weighty talk feel even more daunting. Finally, as the plates were cleared and Lily happily sipped on a fruit punch, Sophia and Robert exchanged a meaningful look. She offered a subtle nod, now or never. Robert's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. Sophia cleared her throat, leaning in toward Lily. "Sweetheart, we need to tell you something important. It's about Mr. Robert." Lily blinked, her big eyes darting between them. "Okay," she said, setting her glass down. She looked curious, but not alarmed. Robert felt his pulse racing. He took a slow breath and spoke in the gentlest tone he could muster. "Lily, your mom and we used to know each other a long time ago. We cared about each other, but then I left and I didn't know about you." A small crease formed in Lily's forehead. She glanced at Sophia for confirmation. Her mother nodded. "Yes, honey. I never told you this before because, well, it's complicated, but Mr. Robert is actually your dad." Lily's eyes widened as she processed the words. For a beat, she was silent, looking at Robert as though to see if he would confirm what she'd just heard. "Dad?" she repeated softly, testing the word on her tongue. Robert swallowed hard. His voice trembled. "Yes, Lily, I'm your father. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you from the start. I didn't know. But now that I do, I'd like to be in your life." For a moment, Lily said nothing, her gaze drifting downward. The music and chatter from nearby tables faded into a distant hum. Sophia reached for her daughter's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Robert's heart hammered so loudly he could hardly hear his own thoughts. Finally, Lily looked up with tentative hope in her eyes. "So, does that mean you'll stay with us?" Robert's throat tightened painfully. "I want to, maybe not here in the Bahamas, but I want to stay in your life," he clarified, trying not to overpromise. "I know this must be confusing, and I'm sorry if it's scary or strange, but I care about you very much." Lily blinked, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes but not falling. "Mommy told me before that Daddy wasn't around, that he couldn't be. But now you're here?" Her voice trembled on the edge of a sob. Sophia stroked Lily's hair. "We both want to make sure you feel safe and loved. Nothing changes how much I love you, Lily. It just means you have a dad who wants to be with you." The little girl sniffled, hugging her stuffed dolphin for comfort. She turned to Robert. "Are you going to leave us again?" The question pierced him. He felt tears burning behind his eyes as he shook his head. "No, Lily, I won't. I can't promise everything will be easy, but I won't disappear." Lily's lips trembled as she mulled it over. Then, in a small voice, she asked, "Can I call you Daddy?" Robert's eyes glistened. He nodded, voice coming out hoarse. "Yes, of course." Without warning, Lily scrambled off her chair and lunged toward him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Robert's breath caught. He gently encircled her in a hug, resting his cheek against her soft hair. She felt so small, so warm, and the fragility of that hug broke something open in him. Tears slipped down his face, unashamed, while Sophia looked on, her own tears shining. They sat like that for what felt like an eternity. Lily clinging to him as if absorbing the truth of his presence, Robert trembling with a potent mix of joy, sorrow, and relief. Finally, Lily pulled back, wiping her wet cheeks. "I'm not mad," she whispered. I'm sad you missed stuff, but I'm happy now." Robert cupped her face gently. "I'm sad I missed it too, Lily, but I'm here now, and I'll do my best to catch up. Okay?" She nodded, then climbed back onto her chair, hugging her dolphin tight. Sophia quietly asked if Lily wanted to head back to the resort. The child agreed, saying she felt a bit tired. Robert paid for their meal. He hardly noticed the total, consumed by the emotional reality they'd just unleashed. Walking out of the cafe, Lily held both Robert's and Sophia's hands, one on each side. She didn't say much, but her grip was steady, and that small gesture alone felt like the start of something healing. The night sky overhead glittered with stars. Waves murmured in the distance, an endless lullaby. Back in the resort lobby, Lily murmured that she wanted to lie down. Sophia offered to tuck her in, and Robert followed them upstairs. He stood in the threshold of their room while Sophia guided Lily to the bed, stroking her hair until she fell asleep. The lamp cast a gentle glow on the child's face, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. Sophia rose and joined Robert in the hallway, quietly closing the door. Her eyes were puffy from crying, but she offered a shaky smile. She took it, I guess, about as well as we could expect. Robert nodded, exhaling the tension he'd been holding. "I'm grateful she wasn't angry or anything worse." Sophia leaned against the wall, exhaustion etched into her features. "She's resilient, but be prepared for more questions. About why you weren't there, about what happens next. She's clever. She'll notice if we're unsure of ourselves." He swallowed. "I know. We'll try to give her the stability she deserves." He paused, then asked softly, "How are you holding up?" She let out a heavy sigh. "I'm a mess," she admitted. "But a hopeful mess, maybe. I just don't know how this works when we leave the island. I have no job, no place to stay except temporary motels back home. You have a life in another city. It feels impossible." Robert took her hand gently. She didn't pull away. "We'll figure it out," he said, echoing a promise he'd uttered before. "One step at a time. If I can help you financially, at least for now, please, let me. Let's get you both stable, and we'll talk about where I fit in day to day." Sophia's eyes welled with fresh tears. She looked torn, her pride warring with the desperate reality of her situation. After a tense pause, she relented. "Okay, just let me keep my dignity. I never wanted to rely on anyone, but I can't do this alone anymore." He nodded, relief blooming. "I understand. We'll do this together." They stood there in the dim hallway, the hush of night around them. Somewhere down the corridor, a guest's television buzzed softly. The everyday mundanity underscored how huge this moment felt. Robert gently brushed a stray tear from Sophia's cheek, and for an instant, they were those two young college dreamers again, hearts full of hope and fear. Sophia finally pulled back, blinking away the lingering tears. "We should get some sleep," she whispered. "Tomorrow's another day, and Lily will be full of questions again." Robert agreed, stepping away with a final squeeze of her hand. As he made his way to his own room, he felt oddly light, despite the enormity of what lay ahead. The conversation had been more painful and more beautiful than he'd imagined, and Lily's acceptance, though tentative, breathed new life into him. Slipping into his room, he sank onto the bed, ignoring the blinking phone on the nightstand. He let out a long breath, eyes closing. Tonight, at least, he'd found a new sense of purpose. He was a father, with all the messy responsibilities that entailed. No matter what corporate fires needed tending, this came first now. And just before sleep claimed him, he couldn't help but picture Lily's small face, teary yet brave, calling him Daddy. The word reverberated in his mind, weaving itself into his identity. Tomorrow, he'd start learning how to live up to it. Early dawn poured through the thin curtains of Robert's modest room, tracing pale stripes across the bedspread. He stirred, sitting up, momentarily disoriented. His heart still pounded from the remnants of a dream. Something about losing Lily in a crowded airport, running down endless hallways only to find locked doors. He drew a shaky breath, relief flooding in when he remembered where he was. A small resort in the Bahamas, the place where a life-altering reunion was unfolding. The air conditioner hummed softly, and his phone glowed on the nightstand, blinking with notifications. A heavy knot of dread tightened in his stomach. He knew the messages would be from his CFO or other members of the board, demanding urgent decisions. But now, after last night's breakthrough, the priorities were different. Lily, Sophia, and the fragile new family bond mattered more than any business crisis. Still, he couldn't ignore reality forever. He grabbed the phone, thumb hovering over the missed calls. There were 3 from his CFO, 1 from a prominent investor, and a text reading, "Need final sign-off on merger terms before EOD." He rubbed his temple, feeling the tension that always accompanied such demands. With a sigh, he composed a quick reply. "Will be available for a brief call at noon local time." It was the best he could offer. Slipping into a t-shirt and shorts, he decided to check on Sophia and Lily. The events of the previous night replayed in his head. Lily's tearful acceptance, the vulnerability in Sophia's eyes, and his own promise that he wouldn't disappear again. The memory still jolted him. Fatherhood was no longer a hypothetical. He stepped into the corridor, noticing the muffled sound of voices from behind their door. With a gentle knock, he announced himself. Sophia opened, her hair tousled, wearing a rumpled blouse and shorts that had clearly doubled as pajamas. Her face softened into a faint smile. "Morning," she said quietly. "Morning," he replied. "Everything okay?" She nodded, stepping aside so he could see inside. Lily was perched on the bed, legs crossed, humming softly as she sorted through her little shells. The girl looked up, brightening at the sight of him. "Hi, Dad," she said, a tiny bit shy with the new title but clearly proud. His chest tightened with a rush of warmth. "Hi, Lily," he returned, trying to keep his voice steady. It was the first time she'd called him Dad in the clear light of day, without tears. Sophia moved to gather her things from the small dresser. "We're okay," she explained, glancing at Robert. "I was just telling Lily about how we might spend the day." She hesitated, clearly trying to gauge Robert's reaction. Lily piped up, hugging a plush dolphin. "Mommy said there's a place with dolphins we can see in a lagoon. Can we go?" Robert smiled, stepping further into the room. "I've heard about that. It's like a small marine sanctuary, right?" Sophia nodded, looking relieved. "I saw a brochure in the lobby. It's not cheap, but we could just watch from the shore if the interactive programs are too expensive. Maybe we can feed them or something small." Her tone suggested she was reluctant to ask for anything too extravagant, but Lily's excitement glowed like a beacon. Robert quickly weighed his finances. He certainly wasn't strapped for cash, but he also sensed Sophia's discomfort about relying on him for everything. He decided to tread lightly, respecting her pride. "We can at least check it out," he offered. "If Lily's set on seeing dolphins, I'd love to make that happen. We'll figure it out together." Sophia nodded, eyes flicking to Lily, who was beaming from ear to ear. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft. "Then it's a plan," Robert said. "I'll book a taxi and we can go after breakfast. Does that sound good?" Lily nearly bounced off the bed in excitement. "Yes," she declared. "I can't wait. I want to see if they do flips." Robert laughed, ruffling her hair gently. "Well, you'd better get dressed so we don't miss them." With that, he let them have some privacy to prepare, heading back to his own room. A flutter of anticipation coursed through him, both at the idea of an outing with Lily and Sophia and the looming call he had to make at noon. He reached his room, rummaged for a clean shirt, and changed into something more comfortable for a day by the water. Downstairs in the little dining area, they reunited for a quick breakfast. Lily insisted on ordering pancakes again, and Robert caught Sophia giving him a small, fond eye-roll at Lily's newfound obsession. He sipped his coffee, trying to mirror the calm he saw in Sophia's demeanor. Occasionally, Lily glanced at him with a curious half-smile, still testing the new dynamic of calling him Dad. Each time it gave him a surge of both joy and grief for all he'd missed. When they finished, Robert went to the front desk to ask about transport to the marine sanctuary. The helpful clerk arranged a taxi, telling them it was only a 20-minute drive along the scenic coastal road. Lily hopped into the back seat first, urging Robert to sit beside her, while Sophia slipped in on Lily's other side. The drive was breathtaking. Turquoise water sparkled to the left, dotted with colorful fishing boats, and palm trees swayed overhead. Lily glued her nose to the window, exclaiming every time she spotted a bird or a row of pastel cottages. Sophia kept quiet, occasionally meeting Robert's gaze in the rearview mirror. It was a mix of wistful and hopeful, like she was daring to believe this might be a fresh start. They arrived at a small, well-kept marina lined with lush greenery. A sign reading "Lagoon Dolphin Experience" arched over an entrance path. After paying a small admission fee, they followed a gravel trail to a shallow lagoon fenced off from the open ocean. Several dolphins glided gracefully through the water, surfacing now and then to squeak or whistle. Lily's eyes grew round with wonder. "They're so big," she said, gripping Robert's hand. A friendly staff member offered information about different programs, some involving swimming with dolphins, others where visitors could feed them from a platform. Lily gazed longingly at the swimmers already in the lagoon, squealing when dolphins did small jumps. Robert glanced at the prices. They were steep, but not beyond his means. He flicked his gaze to Sophia, silently asking if she was okay with it. She hesitated, biting her lip. "It's expensive," she murmured, casting a side eye at Lily's hopeful face. "We don't have to. Maybe just watching is enough." Lily's expression drooped, though she tried to hide the disappointment. Robert's heart clenched. He gently touched Sophia's arm. "Let me do this," he said quietly. "It's an experience she'll never forget." Sophia glanced from Lily to the beaming staff member, then offered a small nod. "All right, but I'll pay what I can." "You're helping with Lily's day-to-day needs in so many other ways," Robert countered gently. "Let me handle this. It's my gift to her." Sophia pressed her lips together but didn't argue further. She turned to Lily with a smile. "Looks like you're going to meet the dolphins up close, sweetheart." Lily nearly jumped for joy. "Really? Thank you. Thank you, Dad." She threw her arms around his waist briefly. Robert's pulse thudded. The word "Dad" hit him again like a sweet jolt. They signed waivers and received a quick safety briefing. The session would let Lily and Robert wade in shallow water, pet the dolphins, and maybe even get a gentle kiss from one. Sophia opted to watch from the viewing deck, snapping photos with a borrowed camera from the sanctuary's gift shop. Wearing lightweight life vests, Lily and Robert entered the lagoon together, guided by a trainer. The water was cool but not cold, and Lily clung to Robert's hand, trembling with excitement. Soon, a sleek gray dolphin glided forward, pausing just inches away as if inspecting them. Its blowhole exhaled a soft puff of air. "Her name is Coral," the trainer said with a smile. "She's curious about you. Go ahead, offer your hand gently." Lily giggled, reaching out a tentative palm. Coral brushed against it with her bottle-shaped snout, and Lily let out a delighted squeal. Robert felt a profound awe as he watched his daughter connect with this intelligent creature. Carefully, he extended his own hand, and Coral pressed against it, her rubbery skin smooth under his fingers. Sophia snapped pictures from the platform, tears shining in her eyes. The trainer guided Lily to hold out a small fish, which Coral gently snatched, splashing water around them. Lily's grin was radiant. "Dad, did you see? She took it from my hand." Robert nodded, returning her smile. "I saw. That's amazing." The trainer orchestrated a quick photo op, instructing Lily to stand still while Coral planted a gentle kiss on her cheek. Lily dissolved into giggles, glancing at Robert with wide-eyed glee. The moment felt surreal. Just days ago, he hadn't even known he was a father, and now here he was, guiding Lily through an experience most kids only dream about. They spent nearly half an hour in the water, occasionally joined by other dolphins who swam around them curiously. Lily's laughter echoed across the lagoon, blending with the gentle whistles of the animals. Robert found himself momentarily forgetting all about corporate pressures. In that crystalline water, time seemed to slow. Each laugh from Lily, each reassuring glance from Sophia on the deck, a testament to the fragile bond they were forging. When the session ended, Lily practically skipped out of the lagoon, chattering non-stop about the dolphins' squeaks and the funny way Coral blinked. Robert ruffled her damp curls, exchanging a knowing smile with Sophia. She handed the camera back to the sanctuary staff. She'd taken dozens of photos, capturing Lily's beaming face. They strolled through the small gift shop afterward, Lily eyeing plush dolphins and t-shirts. Robert let her pick a small keychain shaped like coral. Sophia insisted on paying for it, and though Robert tried to protest, she handed over a few worn bills with a resolute set to her jaw. He recognized it was her way of contributing, maintaining some sense of independence. Outside, the sun hung high, and the tropical heat pressed down. They found a shaded bench and shared a cool drink from the concession stand. Lily recounted every detail of the encounter, from how squishy the dolphin's skin felt to how they could swim so fast. Sophia listened with a serene smile, occasionally turning to Robert with that same mix of gratitude and wary hope. Eventually, Robert's phone buzzed in his pocket, reminding him of the noon call with his CFO. A sharp pang of stress hit him. This had been his escape, basking in Lily's joy, forgetting the corporate world. But he knew he couldn't keep that world at bay forever. "I need to take a quick call," he said, sighing. "Give me a few minutes?" Sophia nodded understandingly. "We'll be here." Lily, too absorbed in her new keychain, barely glanced up. Robert rose and wandered a short distance, finding a quieter spot beneath a palm. The CFO answered on the first ring, sounding harried. He rattled off updates about negotiations, legal hurdles, and the other company's demands. Robert tried to focus, but his gaze drifted to Sophia and Lily on the bench. Lily was animatedly showing her mother how Coral kissed her. Sophia's eyes were glued on Lily, her face glowing with motherly love. "So are we conceding the contract points?" The CFO pressed on the other end. "We need your signature within the next 24 hours if we want to finalize." Robert exhaled, wrestling with the old instincts that told him to jump into problem-solving mode. "Have the legal team revise the last clause as I indicated before I left," he instructed. "But I'll need to read through any final changes before I sign." He could sense the CFO's frustration. That may not be possible on this timetable. We're facing a potential walkout by the other side if we delay. Robert's jaw tightened. Only a few days ago, that threat would have yanked him home on the next plane, no questions asked. Now, everything felt different. "Then do your best to get an extension until tomorrow," he said, surprising even himself with how calmly he set boundaries. "If they walk, we'll handle it. I'm not signing blind." A beat of silence. Finally, the CFO grumbled, "Understood, but this is on your shoulders if it goes south." Robert ended the call, an unexpected calm settling over him. Yes, he'd face consequences, but the stakes in his personal life had never been higher. He rejoined Sophia and Lily, pushing the stress aside. Lily sprang up. "Dad, can we come back again tomorrow?" He crouched down, meeting her eyes. "I'm not sure we can do the dolphin program again so soon, but maybe we can do something else fun, okay?" She nodded, apparently satisfied. Sophia offered him a small, knowing smile. She must have guessed the business call hadn't gone entirely smoothly, but neither pressed for details. They had enough on their plates. They caught a taxi back to the resort, Lily snoozing lightly against Sophia's shoulder, exhausted from all the excitement. Robert gazed at them and felt a stab of protectiveness, resolving to finish his trip without allowing any corporate crisis to pull him away prematurely. They had only a few days left here, time to lay a foundation for whatever would come next. Back at the resort, Lily stirred awake as they stepped out of the car. The sky was a deep, cloudless blue, the afternoon sun blazing overhead. As they walked through the lobby doors, Robert remembered how, just days ago, he was pacing a deserted shore, longing for peace. Instead, he found a daughter, a second chance with a woman he once loved, and a life more complex and meaningful than any corporate victory. Sophia asked Lily to lie down for a short rest, the girl too sleepy to argue. Robert quietly slipped out, giving them space. Tomorrow would bring fresh challenges, more questions, both from Lily and from the real world that beckoned them home eventually. But for now, he relished the hush of the hallway, a spark of hope lighting his way. No matter how entangled his business obligations were, nothing felt more vital than making sure Lily and Sophia didn't have to face another day of uncertainty alone. By late afternoon, the Bahamian sun had begun its graceful descent, casting long shadows across the resort grounds. Robert, feeling the weight of his earlier business call, wandered outside to the small courtyard garden, seeking a patch of calm. A row of banana trees swayed gently, their broad leaves whispering in the breeze. He settled on a bench, trying to gather his thoughts while the fragrant scent of hibiscus and sea salt filled the air. He couldn't deny the ache in his chest. a persistent reminder of the impossible balancing act he was about to face. On one hand, the corporate world was knocking at his door, insisting on urgent decisions and unwavering commitment. On the other, there was Lily, discovering her father for the first time, and Sophia, tentatively allowing him back into their lives. Robert exhaled, raking a hand through his hair. He'd never felt so unsure of his next steps. Then a familiar voice broke into his reverie. "Mind if I join you?" Sophia stood at the edge of the garden path, arms folded loosely. She looked a bit anxious, the gentle lines of her face highlighted by the warm glow of the sinking sun. Robert offered a small nod. "Of course. Is Lily asleep?" Sophia crossed over and sat next to him, leaving a modest gap between them. "Yeah, she was fighting it, but she conked out. Too much excitement in one day, I guess." She gazed at him, eyes searching. "You seemed stressed after your phone call. Everything all right?" Robert gave a half shrug. "Work stuff. The merger is at a critical juncture. They need me to sign off on final terms, but I haven't had time to review everything. My CFO's not thrilled." Sophia frowned gently. "I'm sorry if I've kept you from important obligations." He turned to her, a slight edge of incredulity in his voice. "You're not an obligation. You and Lily. This is where I'm needed." Then his tone softened. "But yeah, it's complicated." Sophia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I can't pretend to know all the details of your business life, but I do know what it's like to juggle too many responsibilities and feel pulled apart." Her voice wavered a bit at the end, betraying her own memories of struggling on her own. Robert took a moment to absorb her words. The fact that she understood that sense of being stretched thin, even if their worlds were drastically different, offered a strange comfort. "It's just hard," he admitted. "I spent years chasing success, and now I realize I've missed out on something far more important. But I don't want to lose my company either. It's a lot to handle." She exhaled. "Maybe we should talk about the future. You know, after we leave here." At this, he felt a pang in his chest. They only had a few more days in the Bahamas before Robert's planned vacation ended. Sophia had no permanent home to return to, no job waiting. And Lily, she needed stability. He nodded slowly. "Yes, we should, but I don't want to steamroll you with my own solutions. I realize my resources could help, but I don't want you to feel like you have no say." Sophia met his gaze, eyes weary yet resolute. "I appreciate that, but I also can't deny the reality. I'm not in a position to provide Lily with a secure place right now. We were scraping by even before we took this gamble on coming here for a job that never existed. If you can help us get on our feet, even if it's just short term, I'd be grateful, and then I'll figure out how to stand on my own again." Robert placed a gentle hand on the bench near her, bridging some of the distance. "I'm not looking to control you or Lily, but yes, I can help. We can find a stable living situation, maybe an apartment in your home city if that's where you want to be." He hesitated, searching her eyes. "Or, if you're open to moving closer to me, I'd do everything I can to make sure Lily's comfortable. I could see her daily, be a real father, but it's your call." Sophia clasped her hands in her lap, clearly torn. "I don't even know which city I belong to anymore. The old apartment we had, we got evicted. My hometown is small with limited work options, and being closer to you, well, I can't uproot Lily just like that unless I'm sure." Robert swallowed. "Take your time. I'd help you either way. If you prefer to move somewhere new or stay near your family, whatever. We'll figure something out that keeps me in Lily's life." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "You're so different from the boy I knew years ago. Back then everything was about your career plans and big ambitions. I never saw you so open." He looked away briefly, emotion tightening his throat. "Life has a way of forcing us to change. When I lost you, I buried myself in work, convinced myself it was the only path. Now, I'm seeing all I missed." Sophia sighed, her gaze drifting toward the horizon where the sky was morphing into soft pinks and golds. "I missed you too, you know," she murmured. "Even when I was angry or hurt, a part of me never forgot who you were, who we were." The gentle admission made his heart twist. He reached out carefully, laying a hand over hers. She didn't pull away, though her posture tensed slightly, as if bracing for old hurts. "Sophia," he said quietly, "whatever happens between us, I want you to know I regret how I left things. If I could go back, I would do it differently." Her eyes shimmered with unspoken emotion. "I believe you," she whispered. "Just please don't make promises we can't keep right now." He nodded, a lump in his throat. Neither of them was ready for a grand declaration. Too many unresolved scars. But there, in the hush of the garden, a fragile sense of understanding passed between them. They remained side by side, watching the sun sink lower. Eventually, a swirl of night air rustled the palm leaves, and Sophia shivered. She rose, smoothing her rumpled shorts. "I should check on Lily." Robert stood as well. "I'll come too." They found Lily awake, blinking sleepily at the television in the room. She perked up when they entered. "Mommy, Dad, can we watch a movie?" she asked, rummaging for the remote. Robert's heart gave a happy jolt at her casual usage of Dad. Each time it felt like an affirmation. Sophia smiled. "If you're not too hungry yet, sure. We can figure out dinner after?" Lily nodded, flipping channels to find something cartoonish. Robert and Sophia exchanged a conspiratorial glance. Co-parenting in the smallest ways already felt monumental. They settled onto the edge of the bed. Lily snuggled between them, half watching the show, half peppering them with dolphin facts gleaned from earlier. Robert remembered the tourism pamphlet in his pocket. He leaned over to Sophia. "They do a night market by the pier every Thursday," he whispered, careful not to disrupt Lily's TV time. "It might be nice to walk around, grab a quick bite from stalls. It's free except for whatever you want to buy or eat." Sophia brightened. "That sounds lovely. Lily might like the music." "Music?" Lily repeated, catching the tail end of their conversation. Robert nodded with a grin. "Yeah, apparently there's live music and dancing. Would you be up for that?" Lily yawned, but nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want to see dancers." Sophia, tucking a blanket around Lily's legs, said, "Finish this episode, then we'll head out, okay?" Lily agreed, eyes flicking back to the cartoon. Robert caught Sophia's gaze, a gentle spark passing between them. It felt natural, almost easy in that moment, a stark contrast to the emotional storms swirling beneath the surface. 40 minutes later, they found themselves weaving through a bustling pier under a twilight sky. Lanterns and string lights illuminated makeshift stalls selling everything from conch fritters to woven bracelets. The aroma of grilled seafood, spices, and sweet pastries filled the air. Steel drum melodies mingled with lively chatter, creating a vibrant tapestry of island culture. Lily darted between stalls, enamored by bright trinkets and colorful dresses. Sophia kept a watchful eye, occasionally placing a protective hand on Lily's shoulder to guide her through the crowd. Robert walked on Lily's other side, scanning the lively scene and feeling a sense of wonder at sharing this with them. A local band played under a canopy, sending rhythmic pulses of drums and guitars through the night. Lily squealed at the beat, tugging Robert's hand, urging him closer to watch. Sophia laughed, letting Lily drag them to the small performance area where a handful of couples danced barefoot in the sand. "It's so pretty," Lily sighed, hugging her stuffed dolphin, which she insisted on bringing. She began swaying in place, mimicking the dancers. Sophia chuckled. "Got some moves there, kiddo." Robert couldn't resist. He stepped forward, taking Lily's hand in one of his and gently placing the other on her shoulder, imitating a father-daughter sway. She giggled, following his uncertain lead. They circled slowly, the music guiding them. Sophia watched, her eyes shining, a bittersweet smile on her lips. After a minute, Robert extended an arm to Sophia, an unspoken invitation. Her cheeks warmed, but she accepted, letting him draw her into a small circle so the three of them formed a tight, swaying group. Lily laughed at being in the middle, the stuffed dolphin pressed awkwardly between them. For a few magical moments they were just a family dancing under the stars, steel drums humming in the background. Robert felt Sophia's warmth through her thin dress, Lily's laughter resonating against his chest. The clamor of the crowd faded. It was as though they existed in a small, private cocoon of music and love. Eventually, the song ended, and the spell broke as the crowd applauded. They stepped apart, Lily bouncing on her toes, breathless with excitement. Sophia's cheeks were flushed, her eyes a little misty. Robert felt a fierce wave of longing for 1,000 nights like this, with no clock ticking down on their time. They wandered on, sampling fried plantains and sweet coconut desserts. Lily wanted a painted seashell from one booth, and Sophia let Robert buy it, though she insisted on paying for a small fruit smoothie. The push and pull of their finances felt symbolic, both wanting to contribute, neither wanting to overshadow the other. As the evening wore on, Lily's energy began to wane. She leaned against Robert's side, yawning between sips of her smoothie. Sophia glanced at him. "We should head back. She's done a lot today." He nodded, gently brushing some hair from Lily's forehead. "Sure, let's find a taxi." By the time they returned to the resort, Lily was half asleep, arms draped around Robert's neck as he carried her upstairs. Sophia unlocked the room, and Robert placed Lily on the bed, carefully taking off her sandals. The child muttered something incoherent, then snuggled her dolphin, drifting off. Sophia pulled a light blanket over Lily. "You want to come in for a bit?" she whispered, nodding toward the small kitchenette area. "I can make some tea." Robert smiled softly. "I'd like that." A few minutes later, they sat at the tiny table, steam rising from 2 chipped mugs. The single overhead lamp cast a warm pool of light. Robert could hear Lily's soft breathing from the bed, the hush of the AC unit cycling on. Sophia sipped her tea. "Tonight was nice," she murmured. "I almost forgot all the worries for a moment." He echoed the sentiment. "Me too. But it makes it harder to think about leaving in a few days." She frowned, eyes fixed on the swirling tea. "We'll have to decide soon about everything. Where we go, how Lily and I will live. You have to get back to your company." Robert nodded, a weight pressing on his heart. "I can extend my stay a bit if necessary, but I know that won't solve everything." Sophia's gaze lifted to meet his. "We could look at short-term rentals near wherever you are," she said, the words tentative. "But I can't promise we'll stay there long-term if it doesn't feel right. Lily and I, we need a sense of home, not just a temporary stop." He reached across the table, covering her hand with his own. "Of course. We'll do it step by step. Even if you decide to keep some distance, I'll fly in and see Lily every weekend if that's what it takes. I'm not losing her again." Sophia's lips trembled into a small smile. "You mean that, don't you?" He squeezed her hand gently. "With all my heart." They sat in companionable silence after that, the quiet hum of the air conditioner their only soundtrack. Outside, the muffled sounds of tourists returning from late-night outings drifted through the corridor. Inside the tiny suite, the air felt charged with both hope and apprehension. Sophia eventually stood, setting her empty mug by the sink. "It's getting late," she said softly. "We have tomorrow still. Let's get some rest." Robert followed her to the door, pausing as she looked up at him. Her expression flickered. Gratitude, longing, uncertainty. He leaned in slowly, brushing a light kiss on her cheek, a tentative gesture that made his heart pound. She closed her eyes, leaning into the contact for half a second before stepping back, tears shimmering unfallen. "Good night, Robert," she whispered, voice tight with emotion. "Good night," he replied, pulling the door shut behind him as he stepped into the hallway. His mind buzzed with the day's events. The laughter at the dolphin sanctuary, Lily calling him Dad, dancing under the lanterns, and that gentle kiss goodbye. Each memory warred with the knowledge that reality, two separate lives, waited to collide. But for now, in the hush of the late evening, he allowed himself a fragile optimism. They had made it this far. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to stay together when the island sun finally set on this unexpected reunion. Morning light filtered softly through the thin curtains of Robert's room, illuminating the quiet. He stretched awake, head spinning with the events of the night before, dancing beneath lanterns, the gentle kiss on Sophia's cheek, and the whispered promise of building a future. For a moment, he let himself revel in that newly found hope, but as soon as he glanced at his phone, the weight of the outside world pressed back in. He'd set it on silent overnight. Now notifications flashed relentlessly, missed calls from the CFO and text messages referencing urgent negotiations. Robert sighed, bracing himself for what he might read. The first text made his stomach clench. "We have a major snag. Rival firm is rethinking the deal. They want immediate clarity or they walk. Please respond ASAP." Robert closed his eyes, inhaling. Part of him wanted to fling the phone aside and continue embracing the peace of island life, Lily's laugh, Sophia's gentle acceptance, but ignoring the crisis would only mean returning to a bigger mess. And he had promised not to vanish from this side of his life either. Torn between duties, he tapped out a quick reply. "I'll review the documents this morning. Schedule a video call in 2 hours." He tossed the covers back and rose, rummaging for clothes. He couldn't keep delaying the inevitable. But the question gnawed at him. Once he dealt with this immediate crisis, what then? Would it require flying home earlier than planned, leaving Sophia and Lily behind? No, he resolved. They'd just begun forging trust. He wouldn't tear it down. If the deal demanded his physical presence, maybe he could bring them with him, or negotiate from afar. He refused to repeat the mistakes of the past. Stepping into the hallway, Robert noticed the aroma of coffee wafting from Sophia's room. He knocked softly. Sophia opened, wearing a light summer dress. Lily sat at the small table, crayons spread out, humming while she colored a picture of a dolphin. "Morning," Sophia greeted, eyes flicking to the phone in his hand. "You look tense." He mustered a half smile. "Just some work issues. Is that coffee I smell?" Sophia nodded, stepping aside to let him in. "I managed to borrow a coffee maker from housekeeping. We have enough for a couple cups." Lily glanced up, beaming. "Dad, look!" She held up her drawing, a bright crayon dolphin leaping out of a turquoise sea. In the corner, she'd drawn 3 stick figures with the labels "Me," "Mom," and "Dad" scrawled above them. Emotion lodged in Robert's throat. He crouched to see the details. "That's wonderful, Lily. You're really good at drawing." She glowed at the praise, carefully setting the picture aside to dry. "Maybe we can see the dolphins again today," she suggested, brimming with hope. Sophia caught Robert's eye. She offered Lily an apologetic smile. "I don't know if we can do the lagoon again, sweetie. It's expensive, remember?" Before Lily could protest, Robert spoke gently. "How about we do something else fun this afternoon? I have some work calls to make first, but maybe once I'm done we can explore another beach or check out a local market." Lily's disappointment faded into excited acceptance. "Okay." Sophia served 2 cups of coffee, her expression pensive. Robert took a sip, savoring the warmth. He carefully approached the topic of his looming obligations. "I have a video conference in about 2 hours, he explained. "It's a big deal for my company. I'll need some privacy for at least an hour." Sophia nodded, swallowing her own concerns. "We can keep Lily busy. Maybe have her play in the courtyard garden or watch some TV. You can use our table here if you need, or the business center downstairs if the resort has one." Robert considered. Business center might be best. More privacy, stronger Wi-Fi. Then I won't disturb you too. A hush fell as they sipped their coffees. Lily broke it, holding up another piece of paper. Mommy, can I draw you and Dad dancing under the lights? Sophia's cheeks tinted pink. Sure, honey. She smoothed Lily's hair, casting a sideways smile at Robert. We did look kind of silly though, didn't we? I think we looked great, Robert countered, winking at Lily. She giggled, picking up a fresh crayon. The mood lifted, if only briefly. But the tension of Robert's imminent work crisis lingered in the back of Sophia's eyes. A short while later, Lily and Sophia escorted Robert to the resort's small business center, a converted corner of the lobby with a couple of computers and a modest conference room. Robert arranged his laptop, tested the connection, and asked them to close the door on their way out. Before Lily left, she gave him a quick hug. Good luck, Dad, she said, as if sensing the importance of the call. Her sincerity nearly undid him. Thanks, Lily, he whispered. I'll see you soon. Sophia offered an encouraging nod, quietly closing the door behind her. Robert steeled himself, staring at his laptop's reflection. He wasn't just a CEO in that moment. He was a father who had to balance success with fatherhood. The swirl of nerves intensified as he opened the video conference application. Soon the CFO and several other suits popped up on screen, their faces tight with urgency. They launched into a barrage of updates. The rival firm was spooked by rumored competition. The share price might drop if the merger fell through, and the legal team demanded swift signatures to finalize the arrangement. Robert listened, hands folded, posture controlled. Where do you stand on the revised terms? The CFO pressed. We've conceded more than we intended. If we wait any longer, they'll claim we're not serious. Robert inhaled, scanning the digital contract on his screen. He pinned them with a steady gaze. I'll sign if we incorporate the addendum about employee retention that we agreed on weeks ago. That disappeared in the new draft. Grumbling, the CFO insisted that the rival firm wouldn't accept more changes. Robert refused to budge. They need us as much as we need them. We can't sacrifice our workforce's stability. If that's off the table, the deal is worthless. A tense hush followed. Finally, one board member cleared his throat. We can push for it, but they'll want a response tonight. Are you able to handle that from your current location? Robert's mind darted to Lily, to the promise of an afternoon exploring the island. He realized that any real negotiation might require a flurry of emails and follow-up calls well into the evening. He set his jaw. I'm prepared to negotiate from here. Time zones might actually help. I'll be available early morning my time to finalize details. If they can't respect that, we'll walk. Understood? Expressions on the screen ranged from uneasy to resigned. The CFO nodded curtly. All right, I'll set up a follow-up call for 7 a.m. your time tomorrow. Is that workable? Robert let out a breath. That would cut into the last day he'd hoped to spend with Lily and Sophia. But better 7 a.m. than pulling an all-nighter. Yes, he agreed. Let's proceed. They spent another half hour hashing out specifics. By the time the call ended, Robert's nerves were frayed. He felt locked in a high-stakes chess match. One move out of place and he'd fail either his company or his new family. Neither option was acceptable. He exited the business center, shoulders tense. Sophia and Lily were nowhere in sight, likely waiting in their room or strolling around the resort. Relief mingled with guilt. He'd promised them an afternoon together, but it was nearly lunchtime, and the tension of tomorrow's negotiation weighed heavily on his mind. Upstairs, he tapped gently on the door to Sophia's room. No answer. Surprised, he let himself in. They'd left it unlocked. The room was neat. Lily's crayons lined on the table, but mother and daughter were missing. A note lay atop Lily's drawing. It read, "Went to buy sandwiches from that deli we saw. Lily wanted a little walk. Be back soon." He exhaled a small laugh. picturing Lily leading Sophia around the local shops. Good. They were enjoying themselves. He decided to meet them halfway. Tucking the note in his pocket, he headed back downstairs, stepping outside into the balmy midday heat. It took only a few minutes of walking around the block to spot them. Lily wore a wide-brimmed hat, skipping along the sidewalk while Sophia held a paper bag full of what looked like sandwiches. Lily noticed him first and broke into a trot. "Dad, Mom got me a pineapple drink too!" Sophia followed, offering a cautious smile. "You're done with your call?" "For now," Robert confirmed. He glanced at the bag. "Got room for one more sandwich in there?" Sophia handed him one of the wrapped items. "We figured you'd be hungry. Roast chicken with mango sauce. Hope you like it." Robert's stomach grumbled appreciatively. "Sounds perfect. Thank you." They found a shaded bench next to a row of hibiscus bushes and perched there. Lily chattered about the local fruits and how the deli owner gave her a free sample of guava jam. With the crisis call momentarily behind him, Robert focused on being present. He unwrapped his sandwich, relishing the mix of tropical flavors, listening attentively to Lily's descriptions of everything she'd seen. Sophia chimed in occasionally, clearly more relaxed outside the hotel's confines. They almost looked like an ordinary family, sharing a meal in the sunshine, discussing small wonders of the day. When they finished, Lily hopped down from the bench, spotting a stray cat slinking by. She giggled, trying to coax it closer. Robert and Sophia watched, exchanging fond smiles. Then Robert's phone vibrated. He tensed, half expecting more urgent texts, but to his relief, it was only a meeting confirmed for tomorrow note from the CFO. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, determined not to let it overshadow the rest of the afternoon. "What do you say we walk to that little park near the pier?" Robert suggested, eyeing Sophia. "Lily can run around. We can talk a bit about next steps." Sophia nodded, taking Lily's hand. "Yes, we do need to figure out how we'll handle things once we leave." She paused, searching Robert's face. "And that's soon, isn't it?" He swallowed. "I have a flight booked in 2 days, but I can push it back if needed." He gazed at Lily, heart twisting. "I don't want to rush anything, but tomorrow's negotiation might decide a lot about how feasible it is for me to stay or relocate you two quickly." Sophia looked pained. "I wish we had more time to plan. Lily's all excited, thinking you'll be around every day." Her eyes flicked to the child, who was now crouched by a potted plant, cooing at the cat. "I'm scared to break her heart if it doesn't work out as neatly as she imagines." He gave her hand a gentle squeeze, lowering his voice. "Then we do everything we can to keep her safe and happy. She won't lose me again, no matter the hurdles. That's a promise." Sophia nodded, letting a breath escape. Though fear still traced her features, she seemed reassured by his steadiness. Wordlessly, they stood, calling Lily away from the cat, and began strolling in the direction of the pier. As they walked, Robert noticed how Lily naturally gravitated between them, sometimes holding her mother's hand, sometimes his, humming a tuneless melody. The bright midday sun revealed all the island's vivid colors: pink bougainvillea, climbing walls, turquoise shutters on quaint cottages, golden glimpses of the ocean beyond. It was almost surreal how, amid that postcard-worthy landscape, the three of them were on the cusp of forming a family unit that had been denied to them for so long. At the park, Lily raced ahead to climb a small wooden structure shaped like a ship's bow. Sophia and Robert found a bench beneath a palm tree, relaxing in the dappled shade. "She's so happy," Sophia murmured, a small, wistful smile on her lips. "I haven't seen her this carefree in ages. It's all because of you, you know." Robert felt a flush of humility. "I think it's because she feels safe with both of us together," he corrected gently. "And I want to keep it that way." Sophia's eyes misted. She reached over, lacing her fingers through his. "Then let's plan to keep it," she whispered. He nodded, a spark of determination firing in his chest. The path ahead might be tangled with business obstacles and logistical chaos, but he had faith that for the first time he was choosing love and family as firmly as he once chose ambition. They spent the next half hour watching Lily invent imaginary pirate adventures on the wooden structure, her laughter echoing in the breeze. At times, Robert's phone buzzed with minor updates, but he ignored them, catching only glimpses of the notifications. Right here, on this bench with Sophia, witnessing Lily's joy, nothing else felt more urgent. Tomorrow would bring the final merger negotiations and the test of how well he could juggle fatherhood and his corporate empire. But for now, with Lily's giggles drifting through the sunlit park, Robert decided to savor every second of peace he could steal. He might not have all the answers yet, but he finally knew what and who he wanted to fight for. Night fell softly across the island, ushering in a hush that settled over the waves and threaded through the palm fronds. Robert slipped quietly out of his room, drawn to the empty stretch of beach behind the resort. He'd spent most of the early evening with Sophia and Lily, sharing a simple dinner in the courtyard, listening to Lily chatter on about her new drawings and her hopes of seeing more dolphins soon. But a subtle tension clung to the air, rooted in tomorrow's looming negotiations and the knowledge that their time in paradise was running out. He needed to think, to gather himself before the morning call that could seal his professional fate and in many ways shape what kind of father he could be for Lily. The sand felt cool under his bare feet as he ventured down to the shoreline. A faint moon glimmered on the rippling tide, and a salty breeze brushed across his face. He paused at the water's edge, letting the foam nip at his toes. A few days ago, he'd walked a similar beach and stumbled upon a lost little girl whose mother turned out to be the woman he once loved, lives colliding in a twist of fate. Now that little girl called him Dad, and he was no longer the same man who had arrived on the island searching for respite from boardrooms and profit margins. The hush of waves was disrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned to find Sophia approaching, a light sweater draped over her shoulders. She offered a faint smile. "I had a feeling I'd find you here." Robert felt a surge of warmth. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted, thinking about tomorrow. Sophia drew closer, the moonlight illuminating her features. She looked both vulnerable and resolute, as though she too was wrestling with uncertainty. "Me too," she said softly. "Lily knocked out as soon as she laid down, but I keep imagining all the ways tomorrow could go wrong or right." He managed a small, wry grin. "The high-stakes world of fatherhood and mergers?" Sophia laughed quietly, stepping nearer so they stood side by side at the tide line. "Something like that." They stood in companionable silence, listening to the ocean's steady pulse. Robert reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. Her fingers were cool against his, but her grip was firm. "You know," Sophia began, voice low, "in college we always talked about escaping together, chasing big dreams. We never imagined we'd meet again like this, on a beach far from home, with years of heartbreak in between." Robert squeezed her hand gently. "I wanted to give you the world back then," he murmured, "but I got caught up in giving myself the world instead. I'm sorry." Sophia lowered her gaze, a tear glinting in the moonlight. "I'm still angry at how it all happened," she confessed, "but I can see you regret it, and you're trying to do better now." He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I am. I promise I won't leave you or Lily in the lurch again." They watched the moonlit waves for a few more beats before Sophia let out a trembling breath. "Tomorrow is your big call, and after that, you'll decide whether you go home or stay, or I don't even know." "It's not just my decision," Robert reminded her. "It's ours. Where do you want to be, Sophia? Is there a place that feels like home to you?" She considered the question, staring into the dark horizon. "Home for me has always been complicated. I left my hometown because it was too small, no opportunities. Then life in the city was too tough on my own. Now with Lily, I just want a stable environment. Whether that's near you or somewhere else, I'm not sure. But I need to feel like I can support her too, not just depend on you. Robert turned to face her fully, heart thudding. Let me help you find work if that's what you want. I have resources, connections, or if you want to continue your degree, I could support that too. None of this has to mean you're giving up your independence, it's just, I don't want you to do it alone anymore. Sophia's eyes filled with gratitude and doubt. She lifted a hand to his cheek, a feather-light touch. You sound so certain, but this is new territory for both of us. He nodded slowly, covering her hand with his own. We'll figure it out, together. Sophia exhaled, allowing herself to rest in his touch. Then, as if a decision crystallized in her mind, she leaned in, pressing her lips softly to his. The kiss was gentle, trembling with the weight of the years they'd lost. Robert responded tenderly, slipping his arms around her waist. The ocean whispered around them, and for a few seconds, time stilled. When they broke apart, Sophia's cheeks were wet with tears. She cleared her throat, attempting a shaky smile. I've been wanting to do that since we first saw each other on the beach, she admitted, voice quivering. But I was too scared. Robert brushed his thumb across her cheek, wiping away a tear. I was scared too, he confessed, his own voice rough. But everything's different now, isn't it? She nodded, eyes glimmering in the moonlight. Yes, we're not kids anymore. We have Lily to think about. He laced his fingers through hers again. Then let's start by making sure tomorrow goes as well as it can. For the deal, yes, but more importantly, so I can choose to stay if needed. Sophia nodded resolutely. We'll be with you, no matter what happens. They walked back to the resort hand in hand, the waves lapping at their ankles until the sand gave way to the paved walkway. Outside Sophia's room they paused, uncertain if words could convey the enormity of what they felt. Get some rest, she murmured. You'll do great tomorrow. He brushed a final kiss on her forehead. Good night. Inside his own room, Robert collapsed on the bed, adrenaline still coursing through him from the kiss, from the promise of a united future. Yet lingering anxiety about the morning negotiations gnawed at his mind. He could already imagine the CFO's frantic tone, the rival firm's demands. But a flicker of resolve kindled within him. No matter the outcome, he would ensure Lily and Sophia came first. His alarm jolted him at 6 a.m. He forced himself upright, showered quickly, and dressed in a crisp button-down. Even though he was in a resort business center, he felt more composed wearing something professional. The last thing he wanted was for the rival firm's negotiators to sense any lack of resolve. He snagged a coffee from the lobby and headed to the small conference room. At exactly 7 a.m., the call initiated. Faces bloomed on the screen. His CFO, a couple of board members, and the rival firm's executives. Robert took a sip of coffee, reminding himself to stand firm. The rival firm's lead negotiator wasted no time, launching into points of contention. They were balking at the employee retention clause, complaining about liability concerns, and threatening to pull out if it wasn't removed. Robert's colleagues looked tense, as if fearing he might fold. He let them speak, then calmly laid out his reasoning. This deal hinges on mutual trust and long-term stability. If we can't guarantee that our workforce remains protected, morale will tank, and the synergy we hope to achieve will be useless. We need this clause, or there's no point proceeding. A heated back and forth ensued. The negotiator pressed for compromise. Robert conceded minor details, a slightly shorter guaranteed period while keeping the essence intact. The CFO signaled support, though his eyes flickered with nerves. Finally, after nearly an hour of tension, the rival firm conceded grudgingly. They'd accept a modified version of the clause. Robert allowed himself a silent exhale of relief. Then we have an agreement, pending final sign-off? He asked, careful to mask his triumph. The rival firm's executive nodded. We'll email the revised contract within the hour. Expect your signature by end of day." "Understood," Robert replied. With that, the call ended, leaving the CFO and board members on the line alone. "Congratulations," the CFO said, loosening his tie. "You held your ground and we still sealed it. Impressive." A smile tugged at Robert's lips. "Thanks. I'll review the final draft as soon as it comes in. If it's consistent with what we discussed, I'll sign and send it back." Applause sounded from one of the board members. "You did good, Robert. Now, can we expect you back in the office soon?" His smile wavered. "I'll finalize my travel plans. But yes, in the coming week or two. I have personal matters I need to address first." The CFO's brow creased. "We need you for the integration process, Robert." "I know," Robert said firmly, "but trust me to handle my responsibilities. The hardest part is done." A beat of silence. Then the CFO offered a reluctant nod. "All right, send the signed docs ASAP." They disconnected. Robert leaned back in his chair, heart racing with relief. The biggest hurdle was over, and it felt like a victory on two fronts. He'd safeguarded his employees, and he'd maintained enough autonomy to support Sophia and Lily. He shoved his laptop into his satchel and hurried upstairs, practically jogging down the hall to Sophia and Lily's room. He knocked, and Lily pulled the door open, still in pajamas, her hair tousled from sleep. "Dad!" she exclaimed, blinking at his dress shirt. "Why are you all fancy?" He laughed, scooping her into a quick hug. "Morning, Munchkin. I had an important call, but guess what? It went well." Sophia emerged from the kitchenette, eyebrows lifted. "So you're free from crises now?" Robert's grin lit his face. "More or less. The contract's finalizing today. I just have to sign once they email me. Then we can figure out our next move. Together." Sophia's shoulders sagged with relief. "That's amazing news." He approached her, the memory of last night's moonlit kiss lingering. Gently, he pressed a hand to her shoulder. "We made a good team, giving me the space to handle this. Lily was quiet while I was on the call, and I appreciate it." Lily wriggled free, picking up her crayons. "Are we going to do something fun now?" she asked hopefully. Sophia ruffled her hair. "We might, if your dad's done with work." Robert nodded, tucking his phone away. "We have most of the day. I just need to watch my email for the final contract. And then, well, maybe tomorrow or the next day we can leave, but in a better place than we thought." Sophia's eyes shone with cautious hope. "Leaving the island together. We'll need to talk details, but yes, it's time." "Can we go to your house, Dad?" Lily asked, wide-eyed. He crouched to her level, heart aching with guilt at how little she knew of his life. "We can figure something out, Lily. My place is a bit far, but maybe we can visit at least for a while." Lily clutched her stuffed dolphin, uncertain. "But we don't have a home." Sophia's face flickered with pain. Robert reached for Lily's hand, voice gentle. "We'll make one, sweetie. Wherever we decide, we'll do it together. You, me, and your mom." Lily brightened, trusting his words without question. "Okay," she declared, bounding over to continue her drawing. Robert stood, exchanging a meaningful look with Sophia. "We'll talk logistics, I promise," he murmured. "But for now, let's celebrate." Sophia nodded, smiling. "Yes, let's. How about breakfast? One last time with those pancakes Lily loves?" He laughed, relieved to feel the tension draining from his body. "Sounds perfect. I'll change out of this shirt first." Sophia ushered Lily to get dressed, and Robert stepped into the hallway, entering his own room to swap his button-down for a casual tee. As he changed, he felt a surge of gratitude. He'd secured the merger on his own terms and still retained the freedom to prioritize his daughter and the woman he cared about. Within minutes, the three of them were ambling downstairs, Lily skipping ahead. They slid into a booth in the tiny dining area, and Lily promptly ordered her usual pancakes. Robert sipped coffee, the knot of anxiety in his gut finally gone. When Lily dashed off to the restroom, Sophia leaned across the table, eyes brimming with emotion. We did it. You did it. He took her hand. We did it, he agreed. Now, about leaving the island. We can fly to my city or maybe somewhere near your hometown to pick up belongings. Or, is there anywhere else you want to go? Sophia pressed her lips together thoughtfully. I'd like to check on a friend who might help me find a job. She's in a city a few hours from your office, if that's okay. And maybe we can find a short-term rental there. Robert nodded, mind already spinning with the possibilities. I'll come too. If you want me there, that is. I can split time between that city and the office while we figure out something long-term. Sophia's grip on his hand tightened. You'd do that? Yes, he promised. I'm done chasing success at the expense of everything else. We'll build a plan that keeps Lily stable. If that means commuting for a while, I'll do it. Tears glinted in Sophia's eyes, but she smiled. That sounds like something we can try. You sure it won't wreck your career? He managed a small laugh. If my company can't handle a CEO who prioritizes his family, then I'm working for the wrong company. Besides, I built it to this point. I have leverage now. Sophia leaned closer, pressing a chaste kiss to his cheek. Thank you, Robert, she murmured, for choosing us. A lump formed in his throat. He was about to respond when Lily bounded back, the sleeves of her shirt damp from washing her hands. She eyed them curiously, then smiled. Are you two in love? Sophia and Robert exchanged an embarrassed chuckle. Sophia gave Lily a playful nudge. We're still figuring things out, silly goose. Lily shrugged, unbothered. Okay, I like it. Robert's heart brimmed. Maybe they weren't quite in love yet. The old wounds needed time to heal, and new trust had to be built. But they were on a path together. A path that led away from the sandy shores of this accidental reunion into a future they'd create with intent. One that gave Lily the father she deserved and gave Sophia and Robert a second chance at the life they once dreamed of. As they finished breakfast, Lily giggled over the shape of her pancake, a vaguely dolphin-like blob, and Sophia laughed, teasing her about her endless love for syrup. Robert watched them with a tender smile, his chest tightening with gratitude. Later that day, he'd sign the final contract, solidifying his company's merger on terms that preserved the well-being of his employees. Then he'd finalize travel arrangements, and, in a day or two, they would leave the Bahamas. He pictured the plane ride, Lily perched by the window, nose pressed to the glass, Sophia leaning against him, possibly still anxious, but willing to trust his intentions. Yes, there would be challenges. A scramble to find an apartment, job prospects for Sophia, Lily's school enrollment, and countless questions. But for once in his life, Robert Sutton felt ready to tackle them with open arms, because this time he wasn't charging forward alone. As they rose from the table, Lily grabbed both their hands, swinging them back and forth, a radiant grin on her face. "We're a family now," she declared in a decisive tone only a child could muster. "Right?" Sophia and Robert locked eyes, warmth flooding between them. "Right," Robert echoed gently, giving Lily's hand a soft squeeze. "We are." If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen